All right, welcome to the Coaching Collective podcast. My name is Michael Garzia, and today, obviously, it's just me and James having a chat today. Pretty much about the direction of what we're doing with this podcast, why we're doing this podcast, and a few other little bits and pieces, such as the coaching process, what coaching should involve, what you should expect from your coach, so on and so forth. I wish that didn't go off during that, but it is what it is. Should I start
I
it
didn't.
again?
No, I didn't hear anything, mate.
Didn't you? Fuck
No,
me. Okay,
don't start it
welcome.
again. Keep rolling. Nah, keep
No, no,
rolling.
no, no. What from there?
Yeah, just keep going.
Oh,
It's
fuck.
committing
Now I lost
value.
my flow. Now I lost my flow. Okay, fuck.
Nah, start
Uh,
again.
okay. Good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Coaching Collective podcast. Today, me and James is going to have a little bit of a chat about basically why we started this podcast and direction in which we are wanting to take it. So a little bit of a motivation behind why we're doing this, the guests we're getting involved, so on and so forth, what we're planning on doing moving forward. And from there, we're going to touch a little bit on the coaching process, what you should expect from your coach, and then wherever that conversation, I guess, kind of leads us. So obviously we've come out the gates, firing. We started with AJ Morris. From there, we had on Luke Miller, and then an array of guests from Cooper Lane, Aaron Burke to Johnny Starr, Josh Bridgman, amongst another number of other, I guess, good guests. That's a good
Yeah,
run
not too
sheet.
bad.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good run sheet, to be
yeah,
fair, to just start it.
yeah. Yeah, someone said to me the other
Who
day,
else?
like, who else have we got coming? Darian Bates will be jumping on with us. Good
Joe
friend.
Jeffrey,
Joe Jeffries, Dean McKillop.
Steve
A
McKillop,
few,
yeah.
obviously have to confirm dates and stuff, being a pretty busy time of year between like travel and competitions and things like that. And obviously these are all quite busy guys. But yeah, exciting times. Phil said to me the other day, you're starting with these good guests. What are you going to do when you run out of them and you have to go back to like just
The
normal people,
locals.
like the locals? And I'm like, oh, we're hoping to drag it out so that doesn't happen. And hopefully we
Yeah.
get yeah.
Hopefully we can keep it
um,
running.
yeah, keep it running for some time anyway. Um,
It'd be good to get like all those kind of people on anyway, really. I feel like it's just a different direction, different audience as well.
yeah, I feel like it's nice starting with these guys because people get a better scope of what's out there.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes the standard within Australia can be quite low. Obviously, the bodybuilding culture is not really where it is in the
That
UK and the
great.
US either. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
I
kind
don't
of
know.
disappointing.
I don't know what
Mm.
it is that makes it not so, I don't know, I guess popular here. Could be just population density as well. Like the population is not as big, so there's not as much reach. In my opinion, for some reason, I think as a bodybuilding perspective, you like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the natural feds here seem like they're a lot more popular than like IFBB. But it could
IFBB.
also be that there's less showings. Like there's less shows for IFBB. It's like what, fucking twice a year.
We've got a season A and season B.
Yeah. I
So I
guess
was
it's the
talking to
same
Aaron.
guy.
Yeah, I'm like to Aaron, I want to do season B. He's like, what the fuck's a season B? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
It's funny you say that as well, because when I remember when I started with AJ, I said, "Yep, I'm gonna do season B," and he's like, "Yeah, what's that? What time of the year are you gonna compete?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"October."
And then I'm like to Aaron, I'm going to compete in April. I'll compete in April or October. And he's like, mate, there's 12 months in the year. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you picking those dates? I'm like, no, you don't get it.
Nope.
There's only 2 seasons here. Like, that's
Yeah.
it. Or you go overseas. That's a
Yeah.
nice one to touch on, actually. So, like, a lot of people sort of jump in and they're like, yeah, I want to compete season A or season B. If you've got the money, like, there's shows every weekend across the
Yeah. I
world.
know.
Like, obviously, we're far away. You got to fork out. But if putting in the
Yeah.
work, like, what's a $1,500 flight?
Well, it's not even
Like,
that. I feel like it's one of those things
mm,
as well, especially if you're enhanced. Like if you're pumping that much money into gear to be stepping onto a stage, I'm sure you can afford a flight, really. But at the
yeah, and
same
it's
time,
fun. It's
probably
exciting.
can't. People probably can't because they're probably spending all their money on gear.
No, I think it's just like the unknown. Going somewhere where you have to prepare again.
Yeah, somewhere
You have
foreign,
to
you get
organize your
there.
life.
And yeah, I guess it's one of those things as well. Like you sort of get there, you don't know what to expect. You just land in an Airbnb and it's like, fuck, now I have to go to the shops. I have to get everything. What if the Airbnb doesn't have this? What if it doesn't have that?
No, I'll tell you,
It makes it harder.
no one wants to do it because there's no clout.
You reckon?
Nah, you go to Spain to compete, no one knows you.
Yeah,
You're there
it's
for
very true as
yourself.
well. I
And
guess, and
the
there's no one in
problem
the
is,
audience
yeah,
there for you. Like,
yeah, like not enough people do this because they enjoy it or because it's for themselves.
yeah, and it's in
Yeah.
like in the US. There's so many fucking shows. Like, there's a legit
Mm.
show every weekend, just about. I'm pretty sure, like amateur shows.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
you can
like
sort of pick
again,
when you
bigger
want.
country, very big
Yeah, because
country.
the problem with having season A and season B as well, it's almost like your life has to align with those dates.
Yeah.
So I always said like, let's say I want to do season A, hypothetically. Obviously, you have to prep over Christmas and New Year's. It's a sacrifice you make. What if you have
Hmm.
three friends getting married in the 3 months before that?
Yeah.
Obviously, you can take your Tupperware to a wedding, but
Yeah. I did
would you?
that.
Yeah. Do you want
Yeah,
to be doing
legit.
that? Like, wouldn't it be
Yeah,
easy
not
to say,
really.
okay, I'm gonna do June, and then I got no events, I can go and enjoy myself here.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. But it's not all.
I
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know why there isn't a July show.
there used to be.
I still don't know why there
Yeah,
isn't. Like, and I feel like it's
yeah,
stupid not to be. Like, who the fuck wouldn't want to prep through winter in Australia? Like,
yeah,
that's the best time to prep. Nothing fucking happens. I
yeah.
guess you're just
Especially in
cold
Melbourne.
because you're fucking lean
Yeah,
and it's
freezing. I
freezing.
remember my first prep. I used to put like 6 jumpers on in July.
Man, that was me. That was me last
Yeah,
year. I was fucking
yeah.
dying.
Remember because I did the Bendigo Classic. I don't know if they still run that. That was in August.
Oh yeah, it was too, eh?
Yeah, that was nice. That was a nice show.
I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
small show.
I don't get why
Um,
they don't do. I feel like they should bring back July. Maybe we should run a July show for IFBB.
I don't know if you can get that registration. I wouldn't know the process behind that.
Wouldn't be a bad idea. I do think
Mm,
July would be like prime.
someone has to do it.
Like it's at 3 months. It's sort of like I feel like with the April shows you start prepping what December. October shows you
Mm.
start prepping like July, and
Oh,
then
probably
like if you do a
May.
July show, you
May.
just start in April.
Yeah. Mm. I had a client
Gives you
on
a
the
little bit
phone
more of an
earlier.
option. Oh
You had a
what?
client on the phone earlier, and I was telling her prep. I was like mapping out the prep, and I'm like, it's 20 weeks, and she's like, 20 weeks, and it's like, that's a minimum, mate.
That's a
Like
bare minimum.
that's the minimum. Yeah.
I was talking to Jacob the other day,
Yeah.
Stante, and I was talking to him about his prep, and I was saying, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of his what you guys are doing for his prep, but I said I'm assuming Mike was giving you 20 weeks of prep, and he said yeah, and I said, do you reckon that's a long time? And he's like, oh, it's long, but like I feel like, and I'm like, well, the only reason is I'm like realistically in a perfect world, I'm like you probably need. I'm like if you competed before, I feel like you could probably get away with 16.
Mm.
You'd probably have to go a little bit balls to the wall. Depends how fat you are as well at the time. But I said the 16 weeks, you got to think of it like this. You do 20 weeks, you try and prep in 16. If you get to that 16th week and you're ready, you're laughing because you've got 4 weeks to just hold it. But if you're not ready, you have 2, 3 more weeks to pull off everything that you need to pull off. I do think, like, I know with me, AJ did 30 weeks. I think 30 weeks is good. It's a long time, but I feel like it's also a bit of it gives you a bit of a spectrum, not a spectrum, like
Mm.
a guideline to be like, in 30 weeks, surely this person will be ready. Like, if you're
Yeah.
not ready, if any coach has someone prep for 30 weeks and they're not ready in 30 weeks, they're doing something wrong.
No, I as much as I agree with that though, the hormonal downreg and thyroid downreg you'd see in males specifically, or just natural competitors, you can fall apart in 10,
Let's
depending on the
see.
person. I've seen people
Fuck,
with like
my.
zero test in the last 4 weeks for natural preps. It
Really?
goes for any deficit phase. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. What's mine
Yours,
get to?
yours was like 100 and something.
I can't remember what mine got
Free
to. Yeah, mine was pretty
testosterone
fucking
for
low.
anyone. Yeah, free testosterone. But the
Was
thing
this
is, I'll
16th
just
to the
sort of work
2nd?
through that for a sec while James looks that up.
Yeah.
Your thyroid will start to downregulate within 3 weeks of a like of interest to. I'm not going to say a deficit phase, probably more of an aggressive deficit phase. So you sort of need to continue to nourish that from a nutritional perspective, from a I guess stress related and input perspective as well. If that's not managed, that can gutter. And obviously as a natural, you can't introduce like exogenous thyroid. And the thing is with thyroid as well, a lot of people get to that point, they're bottomed out towards the end, and then they binge eat, they go completely off the rails, and the thyroid just shits itself further. And that's when they sort of run into just, I guess, a level of not permanent thyroid problems. Uh, to bring you back into this, I think even like I was watching one of George Osborne's YouTubes the other day, and
Yeah.
a couple of the boys in Dubai were saying like it was like it took him like 9 months to recover his testosterone after his last natural show,
Oh,
the last natural
really?
show that he tried to recover from because obviously now he's gone enhanced.
Yeah.
Um, So it gets worse. Like it depends on the person again, just for anyone listening. Like some people
Yeah.
will bounce back quite quick. Like I had Zuzul do the prep for, well, he pulled out of the prep for the Natural Federation's end of last year. It was quite evident that his hormones were bottoming out, or at least
Hmm.
felt like it. But then, like 4 weeks later, he was back to like 600 nanomolar or nanomolar. I
Oh,
forget the
really?
unit. Jesus, that is so bad. Yeah, he was back. His free test was back to around 600. But then, like Jake, when he prepped, it took him like after 10 weeks, he was still sitting like well below baseline.
Yeah.
And I would argue that Jake had a better like post deficit recovery than what Zuzel did.
Yeah.
So you never really know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
but you know what? This is the worst thing ever because when they do it through the clinic and you got to put in like the
mm,
code every time. Man, my bloods were pretty fucking rough.
yeah, it's
So
funny
that's his
because
problem.
his bloods as well were, well, James's bloods as well were worse from an actual prep than mine were through an enhanced prep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
it's one of those
Mm.
things where you sort of look back on it, and it's like obviously what I prepped in October last year, and it just goes to
Yeah.
show as well. Like I'm looking at some of this, and I'm thinking to myself, "What the fuck?" And it's like that just goes to show how much I've learned since I got these done because these are pretty bad, man.
I'll add to that as well
Um,
with the thyroid baseline as well. Obviously, a lot of guys just chuck T3, T4 at it to sort of just level out the thyroid, assuming that it's
mm,
downregged.
mm,
Um, Recently with one of the boys I'm prepping, you know who I'm talking about.
yeah,
Um, Reached a point where I'm like, yeah, we'll probably play with T3 towards the end, just the last 4 weeks, just to make sure you're at baseline. His thyroid was like smack in the range, like no matter he's 6 weeks out, smack in the range. So if I had
yeah,
chucked in T3, his levels probably would end up lower.
yeah.
So anyone who's
Well,
doing rule of thumb thyroids, like, probably shouldn't be doing that. You don't
yeah.
just chuck it in as a blanket. Yeah.
Nah, fuck no. But like you've got to think as well. I got my here it is. I got
Liver
my
enzymes
T.
are
So
shit too.
I'll put this in perspective for people that are listening though. It's one of those things where I got bloods done in January. I finished prep on the 1st of October, so I got them done on the 14th of Jan. My T3 was 7.1. Yeah,
Mm.
and I feel like and like what TSH is 2.52. My TSH has never really sat around that high either. To be fair, like bloods in December was 2 flat. In the middle of prep, it was 2.93. But if we're going free test,
So yeah,
yeah, go, you go.
there you go. You go.
I was going to say, like, my free test. So, again, put in perspective, I had, for some reason, like, my last ones that I got done at, like, through the doctors, it was 4th of the 9th. Oh, perfect. Prime example. 4th of September 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I prepped.
Yeah.
Free test, 408. I was eight
Yeah.
weeks out.
Yeah.
That just goes
But
to show how little ready I was for that show. Like three
nah,
through like 8 weeks out, my test hadn't even tanked yet.
I
When
think
I
it's
say
just
eight
time
weeks out, I
under.
didn't compete till December, yeah, but I was meant to compete in fucking November, remember?
It's just time under tension. You were in prep for at 8 weeks out. You're in prep for like 8 weeks. At this
Nah, I
time, at
started
10 weeks
prepping
out, you're in
June,
prep.
didn't I?
Nah,
End of June, start of July. Yeah, probably eight
maybe,
weeks, yeah. Yeah.
as opposed to being in it for 15.
Yeah. It's true. So then I had
Mm.
30th of June, 2022. I started prepping on the 28th of March. So this is exactly 3 months into
Mm.
prepping. So what's that? 12 weeks. My progesterone was zero point 0.2.
Yeah.
My total test was 12. My free test was 179. Yeah. Then I got bloods done 6 months later. So the 2nd of December. My total test was 15.8 and my free test was 295. That's
So I'm
six
gonna.
months. So that's 2 months post show. So 8 weeks.
Mhm.
Then my bloods that I got done back in Jan. So Jan 14th. So this was what? 6 weeks after the 2 months
Mm.
ones. and my total test was 27. My free test was 499.
Yeah.
I think the highest my free test has gotten to is 520.
There's just on that, there's an interesting podcast. It's okay to TRT for a minute with Decent Mart and Vigorous Steve. And what I want to say is there. So James's free test was 179. That's obviously below range, but let's say it wasn't. Let's say it was 300, which is not. He should be around the 5 to 550. Like the response, like you're not going to feel normal if you're off your. I'm going to say genetic baseline. You probably need to listen to the podcast. And it's just like by you experience genetic adaptations over time to different, like this goes with a lot of things, but different
Yeah.
concentrations of testosterone. So you move off that. If you move off that suddenly, obviously if you're incrementing down slowly over years, like as you get older, the body does have time to sort of like restore homeostasis. But if you jump down, you are going to experience symptoms of hypergonadism, like low testosterone, even though you're within range. So like I
Yeah.
think Dean Smart was saying like he was on TRT for a long time, like a long time, because clinically he needed it. And then one day he decided to have kids and he's like, yeah, I'm going to come off like to restore fertility. And he did, and he felt fine because he had clinically low TRT, but he wasn't symptomatic, which I've seen in a lot of
Mm.
people. Um,
Have you had anyone
and
come to
then,
you? Oh, you go. Keep going. Keep going.
yeah,
Keep going.
no, and then when he got his labs done, like his cholesterol was skewed, his kidney function was skewed, his reactive protein was skewed, and he couldn't work out why because he'd been on TRT for like years. And then obviously he put back on and everything went back into range. And that's just like
Yeah.
genetic adaptation. This goes for any androgen load. So if you're running high dose of test and then you come off or you go to a lower dose, you are probably going to feel like you have gutted testosterone because for in layman's terms, you literally adapt to your current circumstances. Like
Yeah.
all the systems play into one another. That's why
It's
this
all
will be here, this
intertwined
will
at the
be
end of the
here.
day.
Yeah.
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 Have you ever had anyone come to you that hasn't done gear, doesn't do gear, has never done it, and their test has been absolutely tanked?
Heaps of times.
What do you normally do?
It depends. I'd like to see a few follow-up labs. Obviously, if you live in Australia, your test needs to be below like your total test needs to be below like 6. Like,
Well,
and if your
I
test,
got offered to see a specialist at this 179.
no, what's your total?
Total was 12, but the doctor gave me the specialist
Yeah,
referral.
it's the doctor would just be the referral. The specialist would told you get fucked.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I had it has to be like below 6. So obviously, if you're like 8 or 9, you're still going to feel thrashed. You're probably going to be out
Mm.
of shape. You're probably not going to build any muscle. Um, Typically when guys come in that situation, you sort of got to look for handbrakes. So like look if there's elements of their lives which might be impeding their testosterone production. What I mean by that is more like if they're shift workers, if they're highly strung, if their sleep is impaired, like digestive concerns, digestive disease, Crohn's, IBS,
Yeah.
um, general diet, composition, etc. Like if someone was completely healthy and all those checked out and their tests are still low, like I don't think I can do much. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone could do much. If someone had
I'm
one of those, you'd want to clear those boxes, and if those boxes are
Yeah.
checked and you're not seeing improvements,
And it's like, okay, mate.
at the
TRT.
end of the day, I had a client last year, and he was like, "You're fighting the inevitable." His test was in the gutter. It was in the gutter for years. I'd been coaching him, and he had that referral. He basically had a doctor was willing to give him the referral to get testosterone replacement therapy. He was like 25. He'd know who he was if he was into this. I'm not sure what he's done now, but I remember just saying to him, "Look, mate, like we might," and we saw improvements. And coming up slightly, not enough for it to be like groundbreaking, not enough for me to gloat about it or be proud of it.
Mm.
Um, and I said, "Look, mate, yeah, you might lose another 10 kilos here, and it might improve again, but at the end of the day, you're going to need TRT eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So why waste the next 5 years feeling pretty shit and not getting the most out of yourself when in 5 years you're going to need it anyway? The sooner you take that medication, the sooner
You'll feel better.
your quality of life is going to be better." But
Yeah.
in saying that too, TRT, Joe Jeffrey has a really good podcast on TRT. Like that's like the best podcast. Joe's fucking great, by the way. Joe is amazing.
Yeah.
Joe's got two podcasts. One's on TRT, one's on growth hormone. Growth hormone is probably only relevant to people who are bodybuilders. The TRT one's relevant to anyone. They
Yeah.
go over like the health risks with TRT, the studies which have been conducted which show risk with TRT, and pretty much debunk all that. And literally, like, the general takeaway is the health risk is minimal. There
Yeah.
is way, like, if there's no health risk besides fertility was the only health risk. If it's done properly, I'm talking like within reference range. You're not pushing up doses. It's not bodybuilder
Yeah.
doses. It's not changing doses.
Yeah. You're not going,
Yeah.
what's it
And
called? Super
yeah, you're not pushing
physiological.
doses up because, oh, I reckon I can take more and look better. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's just like proper doctor prescription TRT.
Yeah.
Like the health consequences were like, there was non-existent. Like, it was actually improved health outcomes because most of the people doing it had low T to begin with,
Yeah.
and there was more stability. They were more regularly checked. Like, the people on it were more regularly checked up by doctors because they have to get checked every 3 months, rather than some 50-year-old not getting checked for 10 years because his wife, and he only goes after 10 years because his wife harasses him. Hey mate, you need to fucking go to the doctor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Remember Victor said to me when I did the consult with Victor Black, like, I was sort of tossing up with the idea, like, do I just do TRT forever? And he was like, and then he was sort of going over this before Joe's podcast, and he was like, he basically said, look, mate, looking at your levels, you're going to keep competing. You're probably going to use stuff more again. Like you're going to end up on it anyway. Who gives a fuck? And I was like, why the hell would I do that? Like, is there any? And then I sort of, once I accepted that, I was sort of like, what are the health risks in me doing that? He's
Yeah.
like, do you want kids? I'm like, not really, but I might one day. He's like, go free some sperm. And he's like, and then I'm like, do you think it takes away from your longevity of life? And he's like to me, he's like, mate, I get my, and he said, basically referred back to himself. He's like, I do my bloods once a month. He lives in Thailand. It's like $50.
Yeah.
He's like,
Legit.
I do my bloods once a month. He's like, I'm 50 years old. He's like, how old's your dad? And I'm like, my dad's 60. He's like, how many blood tests has he done in the last 10 years? And I'm like,
Probably one.
probably none. Yeah. One. He's done one.
Probably
He's
one if
done
you're
one.
lucky.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And he's like, if something's going wrong under my hood, I know within weeks. If
Yeah.
something's going wrong with a general person's hood, but then they're 50, 60 years old, the only time they get checked is when there's clear symptoms and their wife harasses them enough to go to the doctor.
Yeah. Because I feel shit. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, so he was basically arguing, I'm going to live longer,
Yeah.
because especially with like medical advancements and stuff. But then again, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you're going to live longer on that. But back to the podcast, Joe Jeffrey, TRT, it's on Spotify.
That's probably a good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go. No, keep going.
The only implications like hematocrit accrual,
Yeah. I was going to
which is
say.
like blood viscosity, but you can
Yeah.
take
Like
telmisartan for
blood
that, or
thickness and. But
telmisartan therapeutic
that's probably
blood
probably
donation.
a good segue into. Obviously, it's probably bodybuilders know to get their bloods done, but I feel like Gen Pop are very lazy with it. Like I feel like a Gen Pop person wouldn't go out of their way to pay for bloods.
I've seen worse bloods in general population than I have in enhanced bodybuilders.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
people just neglect it. Like they feel like, oh, it's literally like you said. It's one of those. It's a symptom thing. It's like people don't care what's wrong with them unless they notice a symptom. And you know what, as well, it's not even that. Like even if they do notice a symptom, they probably just ignore it, and it probably goes away after a couple of weeks, and then they're like,
Oh,
oh, I'm
but
fine, and then it'll probably come back eventually. Like one of the most common symptoms would from a perspective would be, I feel like a good indication is like readiness to train. I feel like if you're someone that's constantly going in to train and it's a fucking mission to train, not because you don't enjoy training, but because you don't have the energy to train, that's probably an indication that there's something going on as well. Because I feel like, not that you should always be ready to train. Like, don't get me wrong. I always have fucking shit days where I can't be fucked training either. But I feel like that's just a can't be fucked thing, not a feel thing. And I don't know. I just feel like people feeling sluggish and lethargic through the day, it's not normal. Like, it's not. People think it's normal to feel tired, but it's not normal to feel tired. You shouldn't feel tired every fucking day for the rest of your life. There's no
no.
way.
In
And it's
fairness,
like, it's just one
Western,
of those things where
yeah,
people sort of ignore that. And there's so many other things that I feel like general population should just be on top of anyway for their health. Like,
it's one of those things though where the Western culture just drives us into the ground for like minimal reward.
I don't know. I just feel like it's very. I think people sort of have also a mentality that if something goes wrong, there's something that's going to fix it. In Western culture, it's like
Mm,
if I get sick, it's all right. I'll just go to the hospital. I've got free healthcare. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like, look, me and you pay for our bloods just because it's about 1,000 times easier than going to a doctor and asking him to run
mm,
fucking certain tests for you. And then they sit there
mhm,
and question you and whatever, and you just can't be fucked dealing with that. But at the same time, I feel like we pay for our bloods because we genuinely care about our health. Like,
mm. I got your mind
um,
again.
and it's like, I don't know, if you can't be fucked doing a telehealth call with a doctor for 10 minutes to get a blood test referral, and then Monday to Friday, don't get me wrong, I get it, people work. But if you can't be fucked going on a Saturday morning to sit it and wait for an hour, and that's me being like, that's you're fucking busy. But just to get your bloods done to find out if you're in good nick or not. And I feel like you should, like, what do you know what I mean? Like, what are you training for? What are you
Reevaluate.
dieting for? What are you doing anything for? Like, you pretty much, it's like you're dieting like this.
Mm.
Like,
People get cut at me
I
when
just
I
can't see
send them
if
for
I covered
bloods.
my
Yeah,
eyes if this isn't
yeah.
a video one.
No, it is video. Um, oh yeah, fuck. No,
Yeah.
people get annoyed at me when I like send them off for like $150 blood referral and then everything comes back good. They're like, oh, that was a waste of time. It's like they want something to be wrong because then it shows them
Yeah,
that
I
like,
know.
yeah, they're
It's
fucked.
like I paid for it. I want
Yeah.
something to be wrong.
It's like, yeah, something's wrong. That's why I can't lose weight. That's why I can't build muscle. And it's like, there's so many factors into that. Like, so, oh, my testosterone's high, should be huge. And it's like, no, no. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen guys with gutted tests like progress well.
Yeah. You're probably
Um,
also going out on the weekend and
mm, yeah.
drinking or eating shit or doing whatever.
Mm. Like my thyroid's not good, and I can lose weight when I want to.
Hmm.
You know, it's not just one factor that controls everything.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's like I feel like I don't know. I don't know. It's just like everyone's just been drilled with this metabolism thing. Like I don't
Mm.
know what it is. It's like, oh, my metabolism must be shot. And it's like in some circumstances, don't get me wrong. Like for people that have been dieting for very long times, eating low foods for very long times, yes, it definitely could be the case. And but you know what? So, and like when you've probably had it before. I know I've had it. It's like you get food so low, and you sort of sit there, and it's like this is probably now moving into the whole coaching side of things more than anything. But you get people that you drive their food so low, and their weight just doesn't drop, and it then comes down to are they doing everything 100%? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's also ROI. If let's say they are doing 100%, like I had a guy last week or the week before, whatever it is, he was pretty chill about it. He was so return on investment, like he was putting in like, oh, it was probably down to 2100, which is not
Yeah,
ridiculously low for
not
his weight.
super
It's
low.
like
Yeah,
70 kilos.
yeah,
Cardio was zero because his steps were so high, but he was losing like 400 grams a week, if that.
yeah,
And then like he'd go off plan and be up a kilo. And then he'd be at work and he'd be messaging me like, I'm fucked at work, bro. Like I'm
yeah,
tired. And then like I just said to him, I don't think the return on investment here is worth it. And he's like, what do you mean?
yeah.
I'm like, I don't think it's worth you feeling that bad,
For the
like
rate of
for the
loss.
progress we're getting. Like I think let's shift the direction. I'm like, I know you
Mm.
came here to lose weight and to get into shape, but maybe we just don't have that base.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes that shift is like very well needed, and like it's one of those things where I actually spoke to a client about this today as well. I don't know if she's going to listen to it, but I was saying to her like we've probably had our food low for a little while now, and I said, you know what we have to do? I said we need to take the food back up. I feel like it's just been so low for so long. We need to pull the food up a little bit more. I said, I knew it was going to be, I knew it was going to like set off alarms. Like I knew as soon as I said food up, it sets alarms off for people. But sometimes it's what you need, and sometimes you'd be surprised that you start pulling food up and the weight still comes off. Like
Mm,
you just don't realize. You'll eventually get to a point where it will fucking stagnate. Don't get me wrong, when the
mm,
food comes up, and you won't keep dropping weight. But I feel like sometimes you sort of need to sit in that like maintenance phase, sort of maintenance food for at least a little while until you pull back down again. And
mm.
I don't know, but
This-
like I do just feel like it's like I was saying before with the whole metabolism shot side of things that gets drilled into people these days, and people come to you and
Mhm.
it's like, man, I don't think your metabolism's shot. I think it's you're sitting on 1,600 calories, then on Saturday you're going out and eating a pizza for dinner, and that pizza's 1,600
Well,
calories. Like,
that's
you
what I
know what I
was.
mean?
Yeah, just to sort of pull it right back. Like, if you're in a deficit, you want your weight loss phase to be as short and sharp as possible.
Yep.
If you're taking the piss and going out twice a weekend, there is no point in you being in a deficit.
Yep.
There is no point. Like maybe one meal, it comes down to the person. Some people, like I always say this, some people go out and one person will go off plan, they'll go and eat a steak. One person will go off plan, they'll go have the whole fucking buffet.
Yeah.
If you're the buffet person and you can't put that to bed, what is the point in spending this time at deficit? People don't realize when you're in a deficit, you are not progressing. You are unveiling what you have built across time.
Yeah.
If I have a client who's been in a deficit for a whole year, I've made no progress with them.
Yeah.
The progression you're making your progressions when you are growing, when you're at maintenance, when you're in a surplus, you're building muscle. All you're doing in a fat loss phase, you're not moving forward at all. Unless you're overweight, you're not moving forward. You're literally sitting where you are and just stripping the fat away.
Yeah.
So why waste time if you're going to take the piss in a deficit when you could be making progress in other ways? The only problem is there's less incentive there because they can't see themselves looking better every day.
Yeah.
Their friends don't say to them, "Hey man, you're looking sick." Their mum's not saying, "Hey man, you're looking thin."
Yeah.
Like they don't get on the beach and girls froth over them if you're a guy. If that's why you're
Yeah.
motivated for training, fucking you're wasting your time. Girls don't care if you're shredded.
Reevaluate.
Girls do not care if you're shredded.
Got.
Yeah.
Only guys care if you're shredded.
Yeah, man. Fuck when I'm in fucking when I was prepping for last year, like I had guys. I'm with Isabel obviously, so whatever. It's obviously not what I'm doing it for. I'm not 20. I'm 28. But like I had fucking my DMs were fucking full of men
Bro,
saying, "Fucking sick, bro."
I reckon
Yeah,
I reckon I got more
yeah.
compliments off males than I did off Alana through my whole prep.
Uh,
Like, like, don't get me wrong, Alana would compliment me here and there, but like, I reckon I got more compliments from males than I did Alana through the whole prep.
Mate, the worst part is when you look that good, even if girls do want to jump your bones, guess what?
Yeah, guess what,
You,
mate? Your dick
you're not
doesn't
getting
work.
your dick does not work. I don't care what you're running. I was on gear. I was on test, and I'll tell you what, the last thing that I want to do with my time was to be sexually active. I just literally I wanted to get home. I wanted to lay in my bed and just lay there like this, do nothing. I
Disclaimer.
didn't want to.
This is
Yeah.
a disclaimer if Alana's watching, because that sentence could be quite triggering for her. So,
Oh. It still
but
worked
yeah,
though.
it's
It worked. It worked.
not very well.
I just didn't care if it worked. Yeah.
Oh man, it's just like I don't know. I just feel like people. I feel like people sort of, and like you were saying, and like it was a prime example, and like obviously um there's different scenarios as well. Like how we're saying, when you're in deficit phase, there's no way you can progress. Like if you're someone that's a beginner in the gym, say you're a little bit on the chubbier side, you've never really trained before, and if you were to come in and like go into a deficit, you might put on some muscle still in that deficit phase. You're not going to put on as much as you would be in a surplus phase, but there's anomalies. Like you're still going to find that it can happen for some people, but like spot on, like you said, like if you're in that phase, you're not progressing. You're just seeing what you've built. And I
And
feel like
people
that's
think,
probably
yeah,
the best way to look at it. And if you haven't done that as an Instagram post yet, I think you should.
I think I might. No, I don't
Yeah.
know actually. I probably should. People think like if they add in gear as well, they're going to grow in a deficit.
Mm.
People do their first, like they do like a first exposure and they go into a deficit, and then it's like 10 weeks in, and it's like, oh, I'm not happy with how I look. It's like because you have no fucking tissue.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to build muscle just because you put all these inputs in. You still need to do the work.
Yeah.
Like you might retain it a little bit better. You're literally going to retain it better.
Yeah.
And that's what I went into before, like with that Chris Bumstead post. It was like you don't need as much.
Use
The
them.
only Well, if you're using steroids in a deficit, it's to retain tissue. It's not to build tissue.
Yeah.
You might build tissue if you fucking hammer it, but the last thing you want on the top of the inflammation that comes to the prep is to fucking
It's
hammer it.
hammering.
It'll
Yeah.
be a last prep.
Yeah.
I said to someone today as well, like let's say you did hammer it, then you got to spend 6 months pulling back to sort of clean it all up. You lose
Yep.
everything.
You lose, and not even
Yeah.
that. Like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you lose that
Yeah.
6 months of progress as well.
Yeah.
Like you're
Like
wasting
why?
time.
Yeah. It's incremental. It's like what
Yeah.
another one that I heard was like, just with any concept, like whether you fucking do 150 Ks to whether you're doing 150 Ks down the main road or you're doing 50,
You still end
when
up
you
at the
get
same
to
destination.
you're still gonna end up at the same destination.
Yeah, you just end
Wouldn't you
up there
rather not
quicker.
wouldn't you rather not redline the shit out of the car?
Yeah, and fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
And I feel like, especially as like a natural competitor, it's one of those
Mm.
things where it's hard. It's hard for me because it's sort of like you're in two minds of it. Like I still want to enjoy my social life, but I know extra as a natural competitor, it's like you still sort of have to be on top of everything. And it's like if you have a month where it's quite busy, like I'll be honest, it's one of those. I hadn't this Saturday. I trained for the first
Mm.
Saturday in 4 weeks. So I haven't trained for 4 weeks on a Saturday prior to this Saturday. So I don't
Mm.
even be training 4 days a week. And the general population side of me sits there and thinks about it and says, I don't really give a fuck. It's like, is what it is. But the bodybuilder side of me sort of stings me heaps because that's 4 weeks of like, and it's like my back and hamstring session. Like that's 4 weeks of progression that I've probably lost. And again, isn't like being natural, your response to growth isn't as good as someone that's enhanced. So missing those 4 weeks might not seem like a big deal to some, but
Mm.
like to me, I sort of sit there and look at it and I'm like, I've missed 4 of those sessions. Like
Well,
that's a big
I
amount of
drew
time.
I drew the example with Cass on the phone before too. This is like probably not good to hear for a Gen Pop person. I literally wrote it down, but when you're talking about like competing, you sort of need to. Okay, I did my prep last year. I was meant to compete in April. I pulled out. Number of reasons why. I was 92.5 at the start of prep. Yeah. You remember this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I started prep like early December. Christmas Eve, I was 87.3.
Yep.
Okay, so I lost 5.2 kilos. Yeah.
Yep.
That rate of loss was 1.4 kilos a week. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. Yeah. Or
Yep.
1.2. I don't know. I can't read it. Okay. Across Christmas to New Year's, I went from 87.3 back up to 92.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So keep listening. It gets more complicated. You would think that's water fluid. You're going to drop it straight away. No, that's not how it works. It took me until the middle of January to be back at 87.3. It took me 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. If I had have kept going with the same rate of loss and not gone off plan, I would have been 83 flat.
Yeah.
I
Pretty
ended the
fucked.
prep at ended the prep at 81. So you're
Did you end
not
up prep at
losing
81
yeah, you're not losing 4 days. You're losing those four
weeks?
days, however much it sets you back, plus the progress you would have made in that time.
Mm-hmm.
So if those 4 days set me back 2 weeks and took me 2 weeks to lose that weight again, I actually lost 4 weeks.
Yeah. Fuck me.
You don't think of it like that.
Yeah, you
And
don't.
Rick always posts like when he has a day off plan. I don't know how much he eats. I'm assuming he eats a lot. Like I
Rick
know that I've set myself Rick Boundy.
Boundy.
I know that I've set myself back 10 days here. Like, and he's right. It can happen. If you eat like a fucking pig, it can happen.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
sort
but
of guilty of
it
that.
comes down to priorities though. It comes down to priorities. Like
It
sometimes that's
does.
acceptable. If you got a wedding,
Oh, and look, don't get me wrong. I feel like
your
it's just the way he
birthday.
uses it. But like, and here's another perspective. Like, oh, this is also another thing I'll probably discuss with people as well. It's sort of one of those things where you say to people, all right, let's move into a surplus or a muscle gaining phase. And it's like this thing goes off in their head that they hear they're going to be in a surplus and their food's high and they start deciding to eat off plan a lot more because it's sort of like, oh, I got more calories to work with. But
Mm.
I personally think, from this is my personal experience, when I eat out on a Saturday, I genuinely think I eat about 3,500 calories at the moment on a training day. I genuinely think I end up under eating on the weekends, like when my food's that high. And I feel
Yeah.
like when you have people that's food's even higher than that, say you got people that are in 5Ks and say they eat out on the weekend, I genuinely think you end up eating under. And like, I think I'm doing myself a disservice sometimes because I do think I undereat. Like, I'll eat breakfast, I'll eat my pre workout meal, I'll eat dinner out. That's it. on a Saturday because
Mm,
I'm so consumed by the fact that I'm going to be eating out that
mm.
I feel like I can't eat more. But like realistically, in the phase that I'm in, I probably should. I'm probably better off going over my calories. It sounds bad, but like this is more from a bodybuilder's perspective than a Gen Pop's perspective.
Mate,
Like
when I got
I
when
don't
I got
know.
up
I feel
to
like you sort of get lost in it. You know what I mean?
yeah, when I got up to 98.7, if I didn't eat out, I couldn't keep it there.
Yeah.
It would not stay there.
I
I
can't.
wasn't I wasn't
I don't
really
know if it's
fat
the amount of
either.
food I've got. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's the amount of food that I've got going in right now, but like I can't. I haven't had a consistent day of 93.
Mm.
So I've
I w-
cracked over 93, and generally I've cracked over 93 when I've either eaten late at night
mm.
or I have eaten off plan. It's obviously something that's like inflaming, like when I've had like gluten or dairy heavily, and then I wake up heavier. But then it's
Yeah.
like the next day I'm straight back down to under 93. I just can't crack 93. I hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. I hadn't noticed up until probably about this week that I just haven't been able to steadily crack 93. Never had two consistent days of 93 or more.
I couldn't crack 99.
Yeah.
I probably could have if I no, I couldn't have. I'd need to have put more inputs in.
I think I'd get too fat.
Yeah.
Anything above
Yeah.
95,
Need more
I'd start to get
lantus.
way too fat.
Yeah. Mm.
But
Um, but back to the whole conversation. If your coach can't have those conversations with you, like about that shift in direction, they're literally just trying to make you happy.
yeah.
Yeah. Which
But
is
you've
not in
also,
your
as a client, you've got to be willing to take it on board as well.
yeah.
Like you can't
Yeah.
just sort of
Well,
deflect because
if
you're
your coach
worried.
just if your coach just trying to make you happy to keep you shut up and keep you signing on and paying, like not doing anyone any favors.
It's also hard, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things too. It's hard to convince people. Like you can sit there and tell them and tell them. It's like we need to go into it. We need to go. We need to go. We need to go.
Mm,
And like if you just can't convince them, it's like, what are you paying your coach for? Like you clearly don't trust in their knowledge to
mm,
pull you to make those changes. Like,
mm,
and that's not a good sign. Like if you, it's either, and look, it could be that you don't trust your coach, or it's like you sort of don't trust yourself to an extent. But you should have so much faith in your coach that if they say let's put your food up, and you're someone that's worried about putting on weight, you should be like, there has to be a reason he's putting my food up. You know what I mean?
mm. If you don't trust your coach, it's probably not a good place to be either. I literally
Yeah.
have coaches messaging me, not coaches, clients of coaches messaging me asking questions,
Oh yeah, I
and I
saw you
know,
post that in your story
yeah,
today.
I
Actually,
know their coaches. Like I know
yeah,
their coaches. Like, and I just think like it's almost disrespectful that like you're asking me
yeah,
these questions. Some of them do it like I get like 3 a week.
yeah.
Like, and it's like, mate, it's almost disrespectful that you're asking me this and not offering, like, and not thinking, you know what, maybe I should get you to coach me.
I was about to say, you
Yeah,
know what? I could
yeah,
imagine in that story that you posted, I was sitting
yeah,
there and I was waiting, I was waiting for it, but I was like, I
yeah,
don't know why. It's one of those things where it's like, mate, it's like this is what you're paying your coach for. You're not paying me to answer these questions. Like,
yeah.
why are you coming to me to answer these questions? It's like, if you want my opinion on the situation, it's like realistically, you probably should be working with me and not the coach that you're working with. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it was like I was waiting for you to say that when you post that story, but I was like, he's probably trying to be a
Uh,
little bit. He's trying to be a little bit humble here, I guess. But like, it's
yeah.
so true. Like, change
At the
coaches.
end,
If you're not
at the end
trusting
of
your
the
coach,
day,
you shouldn't be with them.
at the end of the day, if I can't answer a question or I can't justify something that I'm getting a client to do,
You'll admit to it.
I'm not going to get them to do it.
Yeah. But I
Like
don't
it's
know. I say
stupid.
I don't know. Like I've had people
Like
ask me, "Hey, how does this work?" And I've said, "I don't know." It's like,
it's
and
either
you,
that
it's
or
yeah.
yeah. What did someone ask me the other day? Oh, someone was asking about Halo testing. And I'm like, mate, no
I don't know
idea.
anything about it because
No,
you're going to an early grave.
yeah, no. I could look it up. I can tell you what to do, but like, I don't know anything. And then like, I'm gonna
Bro.
defend myself here. I don't know anything about it because you are not finding that here. Like, well, you can,
Yeah.
I don't know, but like, as if I'm gonna take his life, risk his like health. It's probably not that extreme. It's not, and say, you know what, mate, yeah, let's just give it a crack. Why are we do like, and then it's even worse. Like the coach will say, "Yeah, we're going to get you to do this." I'm talking, and when you're talking enhancements, it gets a lot worse.
I want to know
Um,
who asked you about fucking
yeah,
Halo.
Oh, no, no, no. It's not a bad
You
thing.
can tell me
Nah,
after.
no, no, no. It's not a bad one. No, it's a bit of a Halo. Oh, I don't know enough about it. I'll be honest.
Isn't Halo, can't you get like, isn't like Halo like borderline trend but worse?
It's like
Like,
old
don't you get
trend.
really bad like mood
Yeah, but
swings?
you only do it for like a week.
And isn't it really bad for like brain matter?
Yes, that's why
Yeah.
it's for a
So
week.
yeah,
Yeah,
like it's awful on your fucking brain. Like it cooks you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, keep
yeah.
going.
No, but I don't even know what I was saying anymore.
Fuck.
Well, obviously I said it
My
gets a lot
bad.
worse when you're talking enhancements. It's so much
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
But like just like little things, like just little petty questions. But like the thing is, coaches don't even give meal plans anymore. They don't even give supplement plans. Some of the best coaches, you're hard pressed in Australia, by the way, don't even give supplements. And when they get asked about supplements, it's like, oh, just take magnesium and a multi. I know it's with beyond our scope, but like, is it?
I feel
Meal
like if
plans
you're
are beyond your
doing,
scopes, mate.
I was about to say, if you're a coach that's got enhanced athletes and your supplement protocols aren't great, yeah, you should probably be doing a little bit more research past just telling them to throw in some test and mast and fucking anavars and Arumadex and
That's an interesting one. I really want to save this for Darian, but
nah, save it,
girls, like,
save it.
nah, I just touch on it. Just touch on it. I'm no female PED expert. I'm not. I'll own up to it. If you want a good female coach, she's fantastic. Fucking fantastic. Um, Anavar. Mate, Anavar is one of I have never seen worse besides extreme, like anabolics.
I'm doing an anavar only cycle, bro.
I've never seen blood work worse than in individuals who use Anavar. The fact that it is a safe drug, because everyone knows, like if you bring in stanozol, everyone knows like you don't do that for long. But people run Anavar for like 8-10 weeks at high doses.
Yeah,
Like, and then these girls just chucking it as a blanket. Number one, are you getting Anavar? Number two, these people making these pills are not fucking chemists.
yeah,
They're not accurately dosed. One pill might have 10 megs, one pill might have one. Most of them will probably have none. Most of them are probably D-bowls.
yeah,
Then these girls just think like that's the safest option. You need this is going to in a year's time, if you're using Anavar, you're going to be looked at like it's like using AIs.
yeah,
By the way, if your coach puts you on a Rumidex or a Romacin without any sign of lab work, your coach is a fucking idiot. Like they
yeah.
have no idea what they're doing.
If
And this
they,
is why I'm
it's
really,
like just making assumptions. Like they're just
yeah,
making assumptions about everything going in. It's like, oh, your estrogen's going to be high.
yeah.
Let's just put in an AI.
Mm-hmm. And
Like,
I'm really against old school coaches because in the older crowd, like the refusal I see for these coaches to adapt to modern research and modern practice is disgusting.
yeah,
Like, and people think, oh, this guy's got 20 years experience. Like, you're only 28, mate. You've only been doing this for 6 or 7 years. Mate, put your coach in front of me. I will debate with them and I'll put them to bed. I'll
yeah,
put them to bed. Like, they do not have a place in this. There's exceptions. Like
yeah,
Ben Kant's 40. Ben's great.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Ben's 40. He's great. But like in most cases, these guys that are old, it's like they just don't want to adapt to like
yeah,
modern day practice. And
yeah,
the only reason that worked, it works. But 20 years ago, we knew nothing about what we know now. 10 years ago, we knew nothing. 5 years ago, what people doing 5 years ago was retarded.
yeah,
Like now it's just, it's cleaned up
yeah.
because people are,
It's
there's awareness.
it's one of those things. Like I I don't know. I feel like if you've got a coach that's changing your cycle without blood work as well, you should be running as far away as you can.
Mate, these coaches
Like,
wouldn't even know how to wouldn't even know how to read blood work.
yeah, and it's one of those things. And like with like obviously Michael's very good at what he does, and he's very good at all that kind of thing. And I'm sort
And
of
if I
learning.
don't know, if I don't know something, I outsource it.
Yeah,
That's the thing
and
here.
and
Because
that's why it's like networking is good too.
yeah, if I don't know something, I have a friend who does.
Yeah,
If I'm not sure about something, I within a text message or a phone call, I will sort that out.
yeah,
And
and it's like
if it's beyond me, that's where you go. I'm going to say, hey, you
yeah,
know what?
and you're gonna send him
This
to there.
person's really good for you. You should go
Yeah,
there because this is
yeah,
beyond me. Yeah.
and it's like I'm learning a lot more along the way, and it's like even today it was like I found that just from like research, learning off Michael, I was going through blood work today for someone, and it was sort of like I was picking up on things that sort of I knew were signs of like what needed to change and all that kind of stuff. And it's good that you need that blood work, because that blood work is your indication for change, especially in like enhanced athletes. Like you see something's up, and like it's funny actually, because when I was going through that today, I was talking to Alana and I said to her, it's so cool because you sort of, it's like this balancing act, but it's sort of like finding the right piece for the puzzle. It's like you see something on Bloodworks here. It's like, okay, this might be happening over here. Let's sort of see what we can do here, move this to here, move this here. And then it's like, all right, let's get bloods done in 10, 12 weeks again. And we'll see if that
Mm.
worked. And like, might not work. It might work. But you obviously have to put fucking thought behind it before you're doing that as well.
Well, I get clients from other coaches say, "Hey, mate, got some bloods. Do you reckon you can read them?" And it's like,
No.
no. So I actually stopped doing consulting and one-off plans and things like that. There's exceptions to consulting only. I don't do one-off plans because I believe that if you're a client who's paying me every week, investing in me, investing in my resources, you deserve exclusive access to what I do.
Yeah.
If you want to consult because you're not sure about something and you're working with another coach, drop your coach, join the team.
Link
I
in
had a
bio.
guy. I had a guy. Yeah, do that. I had a guy give me his bloods the other week, and he literally handed them to me in the gym, and he's messaged me like 3 times. Have you done them yet? Have you done them yet? Mate, I'm not looking at your bloods. Like, I'm not. I've looked at them because I like them. I find them interesting, but I'm not giving him
Yeah.
feedback. At
Yeah.
least say, hey, mate, do you reckon you have a chance to please have a look at my bloods? Let me know if
Yeah.
you want some money for it. If he had have said that, I probably would have said, don't worry about the money, man. I'll have a look for you. But the
Yeah.
fact that it's like an expectation, hey, mate, here are my bloods. Have a look. Like, no.
Yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
and like, just
Mm.
again, this is a bit of a plug at the same time,
Yeah.
but it's like you just said, it's sort of, you have, if you're my client, you're also Michael's client, Isabel's client. If you're Michael's client, you're my client, Isabel's client. Like, we're trying to build this team where it's a genuine team. Like me and Michael and even Isabel, we have group messages with clients, and it's like, we bounce off each other. Like I have clients that send me blood work, which then we discuss in a separate message with Michael in it as well, so we can go over things. Then it's like Michael has comp prep clients that he's got in there. They send photos through, me and Michael analyze them, and it's like me and Michael have a discussion about them with this person in the message to sort of. It's like they're not there. It's like they're reading a conversation that me and Michael are having, and they're just not in the room. And it's so good because that's what you're getting when you join on the team. It's like you don't just get one head, you get three. And eventually it'll be 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and that's the main goal. But
Yeah. And
um
I
it's so good
personally
having that
think
team to sort of work with, you know what I mean?
you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who wants you to do well as much as we do.
Yeah.
Like if Fawaz is 6 weeks out, I'd fucking bore my eyes out if he won.
Yeah. I think
Like
I
I'd
would.
cry, bro. Yeah, I'll
I think
cry.
I would as well.
I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'd fucking cry.
Yeah.
Like
That's like
that's
Effie as well. If Effie fucking stepped
yeah.
on stage and Effie wins,
Mm.
when she does step on stage, to be
No,
confirmed.
yeah.
But um
I'm gonna
I'll
rebut this
fucking
one.
ball my eyes out as well. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
It's like one of those things. It's like you see everything that these people go through, everything.
no. You know what would cancel out the emotion, the stress of knowing how much she's going to carry on about it for the next 6 months.
Oh my god!
Oof, I think I'd cry in fear.
Shout out
Yeah,
to Effie.
yeah. She's great. She's amazing, amazing
Great
woman.
client. But
But
like, it's just
tell
one
you
of those
what,
things.
if she was to win, you are never going to hear the end of it.
No one will
Like,
ever hear the end of it
yeah,
ever.
no, which is great. I hope she does. I
I
hope she
hope she
does
does
it.
as well.
Yeah,
But
but
I don't know, man. It's just like we want to see everyone succeed as much as they want to see themselves succeed, and it's like we're never really going to give up on you unless you sort of give up on us to an extent, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
you got to break us down pretty hard to give up on someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I got guys that have been like, oh, sorry, I don't want to say it horribly, like I'll say bad clients for quite some time. You don't give up on them. A couple lately, I've sort of just you eventually break through. People go through waves, go through phases.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll have the conversation like, hey mate, like jump on the phone with me. Like,
Yeah.
are you wasting your time and money here? And
Yeah.
typically they'll come back and say, no, 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 I really appreciate you saying that. I don't say it like that. It's more like, look, man, I don't want to, it's almost like, I don't want to keep taking your money if it's too hard for you or something that you don't want to do anymore. Don't
You
feel
also don't want
like
to
I'm
hurt
holding you here.
feelings.
Yeah. I said to someone the other week, you know who it is? I said, look, man, I don't want you to think I'm holding you here. If you don't want to be here,
Mm.
like, it's fine. Like, don't worry about the notice period. We can stop. It's all good. And he said, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Like, I know I've been a bit slack, but I'm keen to get stuck back in.
It's hard as well
And I
because
said,
it's like,
yeah.
it's just hard because you might have someone where it's like, they're not trying and you sort of, you don't hammer them, but you say like, hey, you're not really, probably not pushing
Mm,
it as much as you should be.
mm.
And at the same time, it's also hard to be like that because you don't really know what's happening behind closed doors either. Like
They
they could be
don't.
trying their hardest and it's just not
I
working out. Or
you need to weigh up what their need. How do I put it? I can't think of the word.
what's that? Not the cross needs
That
another. What's that thing
hierarchy of
called?
needs.
Don't jump into it.
What is their why?
Yeah.
Okay. If I have someone who's half-assing it, but they're in good shape already, and like they just want to get into better shape because they just want
Yeah.
to be shredded or whatever, that's sort of when it's like, you know what, mate, if you're wasting your time, that's cool. But like I have other guys I wouldn't bring up that conversation with because I know
Hmm.
their why is so much bigger, whether that be health, whether that be like extreme insecurities or anything like that.
Yeah.
If they have a bad few weeks, I'm not going to say to them, hey man, like do you want to put us on pause? Because what I will do is say, hey mate, like I'll say, hey mate, jump on the phone, sweet, jump on the phone with me. Look, man, we need to refer back to your why. Why do you want to do this?
How can
They'll
we
say
make this
why,
easier as
and then you
well?
say we need to pull through, okay?
Yeah.
Because you know you want this, we know you need this potentially. Some people need it because you got to remember if you give up on someone, like if someone's out of shape, someone with low confidence, etc., they're not going to go to another coach. They're just going to stop.
Hmm.
If they
Yeah.
can't do it with you on your back,
And
they're not going to do it by themselves. And if they
yeah.
do it by themselves, it's probably because something bad happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, as horrible as that might sound. Like
Yeah.
it might be something as simple as fucking going out to a club and getting picked on. They come home distraught and they say, fuck, I have to do this. But I don't want them in that position. If I can help them
Yeah.
before something like that, it could be something even worse. Like they could have a family event for someone for ill health. What I'm
Hmm.
saying is when people are in that position, they're very vulnerable. They're very lacking confidence. They're not going to, if you let them go, they're not going to just hit sign up on the next coach's inquiry form. Like,
Yeah.
and is that coach even going to give a fuck? Probably
Yeah.
not.
And it's one of those things as well. And it's like you really want I don't get me wrong. I want the client to probably stay with me forever to an extent. Like,
Mm.
but at the same time, it's one of the better things to hear from a client is when they stop, is I think I can do this on my own. And
Like Tom Hallinan.
literally, and it's like it's just one of those things where like once you hear that, it's
Mm.
sort of rewarding as well because it's sort of like, look, don't get me wrong, it can go both ways. Someone can say it could be someone that's a bit, it's a client that's a bit, hey, how's it going? And they're like, I think I can do this on my own. You sort of sit there and think, oh, can you? But it's like, it's one of those things where you're sort of aware of where that person's at, and when that person says that it's like, yeah, they probably can be doing this on their own. Like, you know what I mean? And like, who's a good example for me? As far as like nutrition and